Balls with me, Geordie Pete Redding. It's Thursday, so it's the weekend in the UAE. We move into the last 16, and we wave goodbye to the group stages. So you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be England, Germany. It's a massive, massive welcome back, all the way from across the pond to our very own Hollywood Balls, Darren Anderton. Darren, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
We're great. First and foremost, thanks for getting up, sharing your morning coffee with us all the way from California. Got to ask you, it's been a while since we caught up. What have you made of the Euros so far?
Not bad, actually. I mean, there's been some good and some bad. I think the last couple of days have been great. Some proper games. You know, the excitement of tournament football. You know, it takes time. You know, when you start a tournament, you don't want to lose that first game. You know, teams are very cautious. But once it gets to that second and third game, especially the third game, then you know what you got to do. And I thought, the Germany game. Yesterday. The team to feel sorry for. Of course, you know, Denmark. who isn't pleased that they're through? But Hungary. Wow, what an effort! What a great effort. They had a right go at the Germans, and it's something that us as English people were happy to see the Germans struggle a bit, and let's use that ourselves next week.
You've set it up nicely for me because it's England, Germany again. It's got to bring back some memories for you, hasn't it?
Afraid so.
But we talked about this on the first Hollywood Balls. You were our guest, and it was an amazing show, which got so much traction because of your honesty about it. But when that fixture pops up, you must have thought, okay, they've got a good chance this time, haven't they?
Yeah, I think so. I think as a fixture, you just love it. It's I've been over to Germany quite a bit, I suppose, to Munich and things like that. When I had a few injuries, went to see Dr. Müller-Wohlfahrt. So I always used to go, who's the doctor for Germany and Munich. So you just see how they do things. They're so professional. They do everything right. As a fan growing up and as a teenager watching England, Germany and Italy in 90, 6 years later, they're playing that classic game, which of course we ended up on the wrong side of. So for me, I want to see them play them. I want to see them beat them. And when I watch this German team, fair to say it's not the greatest German team we've seen. We know they've got great players. We've seen them in the Premier League, but it's a good opportunity to get through to the next stage, and also to get, if we can beat the Germans, then all of a sudden you get that thing where the country now go, yes,
we can do it.
I don't think we've got that yet. I think that we haven't been at our best, and we look very comfortable in the games, but we haven't been at our best, that's for sure.
As a player at the top level, Darren, there are certain, not just England, Germany, but there's certain games for domestic clubs. So you look at Spurs, that there'll be certain bogey clubs, as we like to call them, in the game. Yeah. Does that play on the players' minds at all?
I wouldn't have thought so. I think it's been a while, hasn't it? I think that even for myself playing in Euro 96, yes, I remembered, the way that we lost Italy in 90 in the semi-finals on penalties. Yes, it's a semi-final again. This isn't a semi-final, so that's good. But it's a real opportunity. I think as a fan, you've got to look at it and go, yeah, God, this German team, you can get at them. The worry will our England team get at them? We've been very solid, but we haven't been playing the free-flowing football that we all know we can. I don't think that comes into it, especially with this, group of players. So many players within this group that are used to playing big games, winning trophies. So I think that the mentality amongst the group should be spot on for this one.
I'm going to take you back to Euro 96, Darren, because there was a certain player. Everyone talks about Gazza's goal against Scotland, but who had the vision to find him?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it was vision. I was looking straight at him. But to be fair, I saw his run, that's for sure. And when I think throughout my career and everything else, players who can see the pass before they get the ball is something I always like to see, and that was definitely the ball came to Teddy, and I'm like, see Gazza's run, give me it, and I'll put him in, and fortunately, it was a nice pass, but the rest was magical, as we all know.
You're quoted as saying it took an age because everyone on the pitch was going hit it, yeah. and he flicked it over Colin's head. It must have taken an age to come down, did it?
It did, because it was quite a high flick, wasn't it? And it was just magical. It's like, oh, go on, as you say, you play it into him. It's set up nicely for him to hit it on the left foot volley. He flicks it over. He sends Colin Hendry, God knows where, and once you see it coming back down, the end result. He's going to score the goal. That's what he's all about. Against his teammate Andy Gorham, everything about it was set up for Gazza to be the man, and he duly obliged.
As we always do, Darren, what we're going to do is our TFA community, they're from all around the world. We've got people in from Russia. We've got people in from Nigeria, the Philippines. I could spend the whole show naming who's watching. So what we like to do is just give people a little bit of a background, chart your career. Itching Saints, am I right? You started?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a lot. Very young, 7 years of age. I think, in those days, the earliest you could get into play a team was under 10. So I was only 7. There was a few of my mates, and we all played. And I think we lost our first game 19-0. So not the best to start, but that it got better. And just that's where whenever I speak to my mum and that I always was walking around with a ball from probably the age of 2. So.
And so the scouts from Pompey went there. There was no scouts from Southampton around.
Well, I mean, I got picked up through playing for Southampton schoolboys, so
right.
Playing for the city. Every Saturday we play. Within that team, there was probably 4 or 5 that were at Southampton's academy. And they would come and watch them. They'd play every Saturday that we played. So they definitely saw me play. Obviously, didn't think that I was, they wanted me to join them, their academy. My dad was, he thought I was half decent, but wasn't, anyone with great knowledge of the game, just a football fan, really. And he just felt I was on that level. So he thought that, he would he'd try somewhere else. So I think he called Portsmouth. And luckily for me, Portsmouth then came and watched one of those games, and I did all right, I guess. And that was it. They asked me to come down and join their academy, associate schoolboys, train once a week with Alan Ball.
Now, before I hand over to George, because he's itching, because he's such a huge Spurs fan, he's like literally fanboy status tonight. But what I was going to ask you was, do you think that cup run that you played in Portsmouth, were you aware that your stock and your stature was rising, and the people might have been looking at you? How did that come about for Spurs?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it was my first season as a full professional in terms of being in the team week in, week out. Jim Smith was the new manager that summer, said he's going to give everyone a chance. And he was true to his word. I was one of the young boys. There was 4 or 5 of us from my youth team that were in the first team on the first day. That cup run was magical, of course, playing with your mates, teammates from your youth team, and now the country are watching you. I mean, I'd scored some good goals along the way, and people started to say nice things in the newspapers. Of course, I'd never had that, and it was amazing feeling to pick up the paper and see, I could be going here, I could be going there. I had a guy who looked after me. He was like an accountant, just doing a bit of stuff for a pension that I was starting up, maybe £50 a month. And I just remember just saying, he asked me how I was doing, when similar along that run, and he just said, "You're doing great. I'm, fantastic." And I said, "Oh yeah, no, it's really good." I said, I was kind of honest. I just said, "It's kind of getting to me a little bit though." So because I can't pick up a paper without reading where I'm going to Tottenham, going Liverpool, going here, going there. I said, it's, I'm only 19. It's starting to, affect the
pressure
playing wise a little bit. And I just wanted to go. I was so happy at Portsmouth. And he just said, well, I act for Terry Venables. He's, his accountant. so he said, I can just ask him if you want, if he is interested. So I said, yeah, sure. And he asked him, and he said, yeah, Darren's top of my list for the summer. And that was it. So I knew where I stood. I then obviously played in the semi-final, scored the goal. Unfortunately, we didn't make it into the final. We lost on penalties. Another semi-final, lost on penalties. I guess that was the start of it. And then that summer, Jim Swithgate phoned me and said that the club had accepted an offer. I asked him what I should do. He said, you should go speak to them. He was great. Jim was great, but his words were, Terry Venables will make you the player that you have all the attributes to be. And I like to think he was right.
I think it was. Before I hand over to you, George, our TFA community, we're giving you our code again verbally because it worked so well last night. So you're getting 2 digits in this half an hour slot. So your first 2 digits for your code are 34. 34. And it makes them pay attention, George. Believe me. They're really paying attention now to this code business. I'm going to hand you over so that you can ask Darren your first question.
Well, Darren, the first thing is I'd like to thank your accountant. God bless him for you coming to Spurs. But what I would say, Darren, I'll probably embarrass you here, and you probably know this, but for everybody that's watching and listening, Darren Anderton was probably one of the most underrated players ever to wear a Spurs shirt, or an England shirt for that matter. If you analyze your contributions, Darren, they were incredible. You're incredible. So thank you for that. I'm so glad you're at Spurs. I'm so glad you stayed at Spurs. So much success was around you at Spurs, so much great football. And it's interesting, you mentioned England in the current tournament, Darren, right? And this is something I'd like to ask you. Like yourself and Geordie Pete, I'm also a little bit frustrated that England's not free-flowing, too cautious. Maybe the last game with Saka and Grealish, a bit more of an opening. I think England needs to go for it with Germany. Germany are not as great as they used to be. Defensively, they seem to concede more goals than usually, historically. So a bit of that Tottenham flair is what I like to see the England team approach their game with. How do you think about that, Darren?
Get Aussie in then, yeah?
Yeah, I knew this was going to be a Spurs loving. I knew it.
We haven't even started yet.
I wish I could play in a team like that every week. It was that was fun for sure. But I think that you got to have the right balance. I mean, I know that, but I think just when I see all the talent that we do have within that squad, from Foden, from Grealish, from Saka, from Sterling, all these players at different class. Give them the opportunity to go and show what they can do. Get the ball to them in the right areas, play quick passes into them, so that they are in those spaces where they can turn and then get at the team. And that's when you play those balls into Harry Kane. And people, of course, everyone's talking about Harry's not playing well. Well, Harry hasn't had a chance to play well, in my opinion. I think it's been a nightmare for him. And Harry will still always give 100%, do all the other stuff, work hard, come and link the play and try and get himself involved in the game. But the reality is the team are playing a certain way that is solid, because I think if we were talking about this a month ago, our worry would be us defensively. So I think Gareth's done the right thing there. He's playing 2 that are just going to sit there and protect. But unfortunately, we will lose that little bit of quality going forward, not in terms of the players, but just in terms of getting those players on the ball in the right area. Against Germany, I think it didn't actually work to play that way. I think the Germans only know one way to play. They'll come out and they'll have a go. It might suit us to play on the counter-attack a bit more. I think after watching how Portugal played against them and played open, they could have got beat 7 or 8. The French played against them and just played a very the French are a little bit like us. I think they got all that talent, and they're a little bit dour to watch at times. Even though yesterday's was great, but the first half up until they got back in the game, they just doing a job, and that's how you win tournaments. I mean, that's how they're world champions. that's obviously something that Gareth looked at. And if we're sat here in a few weeks and we're champions of Europe and we've won it, then people aren't going to talk about how we played. They'll just presume we played well.
Come back and, I mean,
go on, George.
I was going to say, this fixture, England-Germany, it's a pity it's not a quarter-final or a semi-final, right? It has that aura about it, right? But even so, it's going to be a cracking game. And I think it'll be a very close game, Darren. But hopefully the boys will do it.
I'm going to come back to the Euros in a sec. I want to come back to you, Darren, for your for what I was watching the highlights today. Got to be a massive highlight. 92, you went to Spurs, but the cup win against Leicester, literally, I mean, that must have been it was an injury time winner, wasn't it? And I know it was a massive day for all of Spurs. But I wanted to ask you one thing. It came up. I was reading the match report, and it says, and it made me laugh out loud. Justin Edinburgh, who loved the tackle, by the way, he was the last player sent off at the old Wembley with a bad-tempered altercation with Robbie Savage. I couldn't get my head around that. What happened there?
Sav being Sav. Absolutely. I mean, if there was VAR, it'd be in. Oh my God! I mean, not a chance. I mean, I love Sav. I played with him for a year at Birmingham, but wow, what a I mean, great lad. Made the most out of his career, his ability as such. Now doing great on TV and everything else, although it's tough to listen to at times. I mean, Justin was a great lad, and sorely missed.
Sorely missed.
A proper footballer. He was a left back. He tackled. He did everything.
He did.
One of those ones where he just pushed Sav away, and Sav flopped to the floor. He was ahead of his time, Sav, and he got what he wanted. He got Justin sent off, and it was not great. And as players hated it, but from that point, they actually still were playing for penalties. It seemed they didn't go for it. And, luckily for us, we had that. Alan Nielsen did what he did, and nicked the goal. And we won the game. And as we were talking about watching teams play free-flowing football, that game was dreadful, but we won, and that's what matters.
But you see,
that's why we're talking about it now.
My point being that Sav basically drove you on. There was no other result after that. After what he did, Alan Nielsen as well. I know Alan very well. It must have been quite a collector's item, that a diving header from him.
Exactly, yeah, but he could nick a goal, Alan. I mean, his energy was unreal. One of the fittest players I've played with.
Great lad.
Technically, he knew his limitations, so he did everything right. But he just loved to get into the box and score goals, and that's what he was all about. And he was the one who scored the goal. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, obviously, I was there. And it feels like yesterday, right? And I can feel the emotion of Savage winding everybody up. Yeah, I bet that's for sure. Yeah, but I remember the emotion we all felt when Savage got Justin sent off. Right? The referee took the bait, incredibly harsh. We all felt hard done by, and I remember that feeling that. Right, because of that, we're definitely going to win. You get those feelings, that momentum sometimes in games as players and fans even. And I thought we felt that. And when Nielsen scored that goal, it was bedlam, right, Darren?
Yeah, it was heaven. It was justice.
Yeah, it was. Listen, I'm going to bring you guys back to the Euros, but first, second code for the guys. I mean, time flies when you've got a legend on the show. I can't believe it. It's 20 past already. Unbelievable.
No worries.
Second part of the code is 94 for you guys. So you've got 34.94. So I hope you're paying attention. I'm going to put you on the spot. I've picked out. George loves this. I often do it to him, Darren. Going to do it to you as well. Standout games for me in the last 16. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Wales, Denmark. What do you fancy there?
Wales, I fancy Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it and I think that, Denmark are favourites and everyone obviously, myself included, Christian Eriksen. but Wales know how to win games of football, and they got that quality as well. I mean, they work so hard, and they got Gareth Bale. They've always got a chance. That I think they'll nick it.
George, I know you're quite a fan of. I know you're a fan of them, aren't you?
I fancy Wales, not just because I want Wales to win, although I desperately want Wales to win. I have a soft spot for Denmark, but because I think the defensive approach is very consistent, and they concede very few goals. And with Gareth, Ramsey, and I'll tell you, that boy James on the wing, he causes a lot of problems. The Man U winger. I fancy Wales, absolutely. Yeah.
Got to dive out again because obviously it's such a massive show on a Thursday night, and we've got such a great guest. Mike's asking, Darren, how often did you practice the corner routine with Teddy? Great question.
We never practiced it, to be honest. I think that was just something that just came up within a game, and Teddy just gave me a nod and just said, stick it on the penalty spot. And from that, Teddy's Teddy. His movement is spot on, and we did it 3 weeks in a row. I always remember then we ended up going away with England or something. I remember Glenn might have been in charge. Glenn was trying to get us to do it and trying to make different sorts of movement. It's one of those that's just off the cuff and you just play it, and obviously, our relationship, on the pitch, was unreal, and that, Teddy makes things easy for everyone who played with him, and that was just another one of those. And I do have a little chuckle every time I see it, see the teams try and do it now, and it's always nice to see. Brings back
great question, George. I'm going to come to you now because my second pick for the last 16 is Belgium, Portugal. What a
I think that's that could be a very close game. Obviously, Belgium are the favourites, but given Portugal's performance against France, I think that gives them more confidence and a little bit more momentum. Tight game. I'm going to give it to Belgium, but it's going to be like 1-0 or 2-1. A tight game, but I'll give the edge to Belgium.
And Darren, what's your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great tie. I think it's such a difficult one to call because of how Portugal played in the group games. We're not really sure what we're going to get from them, but I don't think it'll be what the Portugal we saw against Germany. It'll be, they'll go there and they'll make it difficult like they did for the French. And that's a tough one. Wow. I think Belgium will sneak it. I think De Bruyne will be the difference on the day.
He will make a difference. The other one I've got in here, because it's a funny one, is George, Croatia, Spain.
Yeah, I thought the Spanish, for the first 20 minutes, I think yesterday when they played, I thought they'd be playing for 3 weeks and they wouldn't score. And with Morata missing the penalty and missing 2 or 3 chances, you got that impression. And then you had that incredible own goal, and the floodgates opened, and the Spanish had a little bit more faith in them, more confidence. They were more free flowing. Croatia are very good game players. They know how to play the big game. A lot of Spanish guys are youngsters. It's going to be tight. It wouldn't surprise me. My heart says Spain, but my mind says I think Croatia could shut them out.
We've got to get you off this fence, George. We've got to move on.
I'm going Croatia.
Oh, great. You're going Croatia. Now I'm leaving the big one for Darren because he knows what it takes to play in it. Massive game. Well, no, but it was England, Germany. Come on, what we going at?
I fancy us big time. I really do. And I think that when, the groups came out to begin with, we're like, if we win the group, which we should, we're going to play one of these boys. After watching the first 3 games, I would probably say Germany is a team I would like to play out of that group, honestly, to be honest. So
fancy France,
I think you've got to be positive with it. I think that we know that Germany know how to win games with a team that's not great at times, but I think that this is our time. I really do. I think that we look so solid defensively that I think that'll come into it, and we're always going to create opportunities especially against a team like Germany, who they Hungary could have scored 4 or 5 yesterday. I mean, it's if you defend properly against them, but still have that threat going forward on the counter attack and give those boys a little bit more freedom, that front four, then I think that we'll win the game for sure.
How much does football's coming home annoy Germany?
Absolutely right. I mean, let's hope so. Let's hope so. I mean, unfortunately, they were there all around Euro '96 when it was going around the stadium, and
they recorded one.
Sorry,
they recorded one in German.
That's hilarious.
That must be fun to listen to.
Right?
Yeah, it's awesome. Not going to annoy our German fans, but yeah, it's not the best. Darren, I've got to ask you a quick question. Coming back into, I mean, we're coming straight out of the Euros into the Premier League. Jurgen Klinsmann for Spurs. Did you hear about that?
I've seen it. I think I mentioned it to people a couple of months ago that why not? If we don't get Poch, what about someone like Jurgen, someone who's going to go into the place, and I'm sure George loves Jurgen, fans love Jurgen. It gives him a head start, I think. And I think Jurgen did great for the German team. I think he had a young team, loads of pressure playing at home. I mean, he'd be different class, I think. For me, get him in there all day long.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what we do before we do the last part of the code, we always ask our special guest, and this is my favourite part, George. We ask Darren. He's played at the top level. Who's your toughest opponent, Darren? Who, when you were playing for, could be anyone, but who was the guy that you thought, oh, if he's marking me today, we're going to have a nightmare?
Cool. We played against Brazil at Wembley and Roberto Carlos was left back, so that was tough.
Right.
Probably because as a winger, you want someone who's not so quick and doesn't bomb forward, because I want to go forward. So I'm feeling like I basically played right back that day because Brazil had a lot of the ball and he was bombing forward, had so much quality. I know I can't help myself. I'm a team player. I want to defend properly and help out. So there was no cheating and letting him run and then being free going the other way. So he was different class. I played against Zidane, which was amazing. At Wembley one night against the French when they were world champions. He just didn't have it personally. I think he's within my career been the main man to watch and play against. It's unreal.
Funny you say that, because we've had 3 picks for that. We had Lee Clark on the other night, and he was saying, forget his skill, but Clarkey was on, and he said, forget his skill, but he's actually loves a tackle, and he's a big guy as well.
Well, that's the thing. I think he's a big guy, and that you try and give him a kick because of who he is and how good he is, and you just bounce off him. I mean, he was strong. He was a top player. He had everything. I think the fact that he scores 2 goals with his head in a World Cup final sums it up. That people were like, he heads it. It was just different class.
Yeah.
I mean, his skill to watch him play was a joy.
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal.
I mean, we hear that from so many players. He's not only great on the ball, but he's a tough cookie as well. Yeah. He had everything, absolutely everything. Yeah.
We're getting a lot of questions, Darren. We've got a TFA community here where lots of people want you to join us. We've got Rob Lee in the TFA community. We've got Jack Grealish. We've got Big John McGinn from Scotland as well. And all the guys are asking, please join the TFA family. So we're going to be sending you a membership. So Darren Anderton is going to be joining us. All it leaves me with is to give the guys their last part of the code, which is IU, said in a Geordie accent. IU, and now you've got your full code. Darren, we thank you so much for getting up in California and joining us. It's been absolutely brilliant show. And guys, we'll see you tomorrow. Please do me a favor. I give you all the love. I bring you all the guests. Like and subscribe to my channel and share it amongst all your friends. This is Hollywood Balls over and out for a Thursday.